sculptures real quick, and then I'm just gonna jump into the meat and potatoes of my show today, which is this performance. The first thing I did, displayed here in this show, is this bust right here, and this bust is called Golden Insecurities. I made the mistake of making it and used the skeletal system of a male, and because I used the skeletal system of a male, I could not I couldn't make it into a self-portrait. So I eventually got upset and it became an expression piece, and I carved away at all the things that I once had as an insecurity or whatnot in my face.
Oh, muted. Okay, got you.
And then from there, so figurative work is really the where I started figurative work. And then from there, I made another piece which is over there. You guys can see it on your way out. It's called Not Your Venus, and it's like an idol of a Venus with cotton dipped in wax coming off the top of it. So I've never seen cotton before I came here, and I decided one day on the way home to stop and tactically acquire a trash bag full of cotton just to get my hands on it. And so I did, and then I contacted Eric and asked if he had some cotton that I could go pick. So Carly and I went out to his farm to pick some cotton, and while I was picking the cotton, I was like, this stuff is so soft, I just wonder like what it tastes like. So of course I stick it in, I'm like, ah. But then whenever I did that, it's crazy windy day, the cotton just stood up in the wind, like after I took it out, and I kind of just sat there and I looked at it, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna turn this into a sculpting medium. And so I came back, and with my class at the time, we were doing 3D wire like projects and stuff, and so I decided just to create one of my own and kind of let the wire do its own like organic talking, I suppose, and then I covered it all in the organic cotton that I picked. And I'm okay with people, once I'm done, touching this piece because it's hide. It feels like hide, although it is organic cotton. So just transferring this medium beyond the standard like cotton cotton and such and fluffy and all this stuff, I turn it into this strong medium that's like hide. So that's kind of like my sculpture pieces on this side. On this side, I took a performance class, and in this performance class, we had to develop a performance that used everything we learned plus words. So if you have that sheet of paper, and you look at the front, this is a screenshot of the SHARP website. SHARP stands for Sexual Harassment and Assault Response Prevention. And so this is the kind of the Army's like literal screenshot from this webpage that if anything ever were to happen, this is the first thing. Say you don't want to report to a person, this is the first thing you see, right? And so I'm kind of criticizing that system in this piece. As you can see, I used large stones. I actually found these stones in an abandoned building somewhere in Lubbock. I think that was destroyed by the tornado at one point. And so I took these concrete stones, and my own experience with sexual, I have many, but unfortunately, but my one that I often think about is the one time I reported my own incident with sexual harassment, and they found a way to like manipulate the system. I ended up getting in trouble out of that, and they literally made me pick up pebbles out of a parking lot for a week as punishment. So I chose these stones because they have tiny pebbles in them. So I was able to represent my thing while representing the people we're going to talk about here in a second. So that's why I wrote SHARP on the floor in dark red paint. And then I decided to use a series of numbers. I'm going to open up my notes right now because I don't want to get this wrong. Before I move on to that, my dog tags. I chose to do wooden dog tags. I laser cut them and then put them on a steel tie. The reason why I chose wooden ones because the original dog tags were first created in the Civil War, and soldiers would carve their names into the dog tags to ensure that their bodies and everything were, went back to their families if they perished in war. So I decided to use the brown dog tags for that, and on each one of these are the people on the back of this flyer. On the back of this flyer, they're the names of people who have lost their lives due to shark failing them. Whether it be, there's someone in here who lost their life because of the stress of it and had a heart attack eventually, right? She lost everything because she reported her incident. And it's the superiors who punish them, right? A couple of them had been murdered. The one that most people know about is Vanessa Keene. She sits here in the front, and she was murdered by her assailant, and they tried to cover it up, and it was her family who really got that moving, like fought for her rights and everything like that. So I do a series. I chose 9 stones because at the end of, if you choose to be buried with military rights, they shoot 3, it's just a minimum. So it can be up to like 7, but every single service member has a minimum of a 3-round volley. And the 3-round volley originates, they would shoot 3-round volleys into the sky to signify to the other side, ceasefire, so that we can go and pick up our dead off the field and then pull them off. So at every funeral, they play the 3-round volley. And it's a minimum of 3, shooting 3 times, which equals 9 bullets. They give those bullets to the family at the end of the funeral. So I have 9 stones. And then I have 3 push-ups, as you see in this, per stone for that 3-round volley as well. I had, 3-round volley, 3 push-ups. And then at the very end of this, which we might actually get to listen to it because I'm almost done, I have a trumpet player come out and play taps. And so taps actually originated they would play it to turn lights off. It would signify to extinguish all your lights, to also hide yourself from the enemy. So also played at every funeral. Every funeral, even if you don't choose, burial rites, they'll play it at the wake. So each of these soldiers have their own story with a little bit of my story in it, but I really was just paying tribute to them because a lot of them, they say they were they committed suicide. I say they were suicided because it's like they cover up how they really died. So I won't get into their individual stories because I want to take time to listen to this in a second and then also take questions. But please, please, please look these people up and look their stories up. So there's some you can't find much information because it's been well hidden, but some you can. So if I do anything from this performance and this meeting, and please go look this up so you see kind of how serious this problem is in the military. And it's both male and female. I have male and female stones over here. So right now I'm pushing Vanessa's stone, I believe. You can turn it up this way. Pretty exhausted. So this is, that'll probably just conclude my talking portion, because I'm sure there's lots of questions I could answer.
All right, questions or comments about any of the pieces that she talked about, or her work in general, too?
Could you just repeat again what the problem was with the skeleton for this piece?
Yes, I accidentally used the skeletal frame of a male and not a female, which is kind of funny because I have female, in every aspect of my art for the most part. But yes, I used a female skeleton, or male skeleton instead of female, so I could not fix it.
When you say skeletal frame, just since I haven't made one of these before, like what do you mean literally?
Just the skeleton, like the actual skeleton where the jaw sits, it actually.
Like the skull, that you built a skull underneath it, or did you?
I started off with like a skull.
Okay, and the dimensions were incorrect?
Yes.
You built the skull, okay. Great, thank you. One thing I really love about your work, and I have heard about other work that you've done, and I was involved in the conversations about this, but it seems really important to you to bring in the quantification of the body, of bodily action, like the numbers that you laid out, right? Like they're really important in military rituals, and they're really important as a piece that I even talked about, like, what if we did it a different number of times? And you're like, no, it has to be this number of times. And I see a kind of weird connection here in that you were basing it off of, I'm assuming that skull was based off of dimensions. And there's other things about, now we have the Algorithmic Justice League is talking about facial recognition and how the actual quantified faces are misjudging people in various ways. And I can direct you towards that documentary, but I think there's something really interesting about numbers of times you do things and numbers of rocks. And we talked about how the military quantifies and punishes bodies for not meeting those quantifications. So like keep up the number stuff, because I think you've got between body action and ritual, there's something there about the quantification that you keep digging at.
I will continue off of that. Thank you for that as well. But I am currently I'm back at my multiples. And so I do think there's a huge connection between my multiples, sculpture, and then numbers. And so I definitely agree to you. It wasn't made aware to me until recently. So I definitely agree with you, and I will continue to explore that.
Just to continue on that, Heather's.
It's okay. Yeah.
So in the mid-18th century, right, there was this discovery of sexual difference. It was happening in anatomy. And so the kind of gender problem in that sculpture, right, you could actually make it into a problem of the work. And so just to give you that kind of piece of information.
Yeah. Which you can see in that one down there, like the typical body that is used is not a larger woman's body in the creation of idols. There are some idols that are throughout time, yes, like that, but like in the fine art standard and not like archaeological pieces, it's not a larger woman. So I do challenge that there too. So I think I'll continue to do that as well.
It's kind of like in that sculpture, right? You were questioning like the problem of like gender and sexual difference in like the science of anatomy, right?
Yeah, that's wow. Thank you. I know it's a heavy topic. Don't be shy.
I think it's interesting thinking about like the way this becomes a kind of penance and a reenactment for you. Like, because you're reenacting your time in the military, like you're using these gestures that are familiar to us, like the push-ups. You could have picked anything, but you picked push-ups, I think, because like it said something in a particular way that you wanted. So I'm also like, I don't know, like this became like a reenactment, and also thinking about like, I don't know, these become little memorials, and like the way you talked about it was your memorial and their memorial, and they almost become headstones, and you play taps, which is also a memorial piece. And so like, I don't know, like have you thought about ritual and like memorial ritual, like in general, like, or just through these military memorial rituals? Did that make sense?
Yes. I really paid attention to the memorial rituals in this piece specifically because I felt, especially some of these stories, there's a connection there. Some of these stories, they were considered, like they died of suicide. And when you die of suicide, your family does not get your benefits, your family does not get anything, right? So there's like a whole financial aspect to that as well. It's almost like a dishonor too. I think you can still opt to have funeral benefits, but when people die of suicide, their families know otherwise, so they choose to not be buried with military rights. So it's almost like me paying homage to them and giving them like because we call each other brother and sister in arms, so it's like giving you the brother and sister of arms and like send off, like I'm paying tribute to you the military way with nothing but the purest of intentions.
Mm-hmm.
So you said that this is a very heavy topic, because it is, and I was curious about like the actual like heavy properties of these stones, because you could have picked the little pebbles because you wanted to reference that, but I think there's potential to talk about the heaviness of like the burden of like physically pushing. It's almost like you're like carrying their bodies as you were like retrieving them or something like that.
Like a little penance.
Absolutely. The heaviness of the stones is super signifying to me because I wanted to carry them. I wanted to carry that burden. I want to speak on behalf of them. And sometimes the bigger you go, the louder you speak. So.
I wonder if you have anything to say on that, like how you feel about the actual performance of moving into the gallery space. Did that change it? Did the artwork change for you?
Yes, I learned so much doing this. This is actually my first public performance ever. So between that and photographing my stuff and documenting my stuff and my processes, I lost so much because I did not document it probably as efficiently as I should have. And shout out to Joshua for filming it for me because I think he did a really good job of filming it. But and without that, I probably wouldn't have filmed this. So wait, I'm sorry, what was your question?
I was just wondering if you, from the actual performance that it means in the gallery, has it changed at all for you? How you feel about it in the gallery?
I feel uncomfortable. I think it's probably because I have unresolved feelings still about this, just this topic. But I think it works. I'm not sure because I've never done video work, so this is the first for me.
I would like to comment about I was there with my performance and I've seen the video in the gallery, and they're both very strong. The emotions were very evoking in both of them.
Thank you so much.
That's a really, such a great question, Sierra, and just very, very quickly. So much of your work with materials seems to be this relationship between what endures, what materials endure, and which ones are ephemeral, fragile, which actions disappear, and which actions remain. And that's so key to the performance, and it's part of what documentation is, a kind of memorial to a performance of what remained, but also what is lost. So this is not an answer to the question, it's just that this is the question, right? About especially if you're doing work that has to do with death and passing. How does this document provide a memorial for something and what is lost, and that memorialization seems to be key to the piece itself. Yeah. Thank you.
Sandra, I really want to hear more about this piece. I'm really interested even in just where it's situated in relation to your other works. It's like over here we have something that we would call a legible figure, and here we have the stones that are kind of proxies for these bodies, and also like headstones. This feels like body and like something other than body at the same time. Like you said, that sounds like the origins of your work are in figurative sculpture. Can you tell us more about how you conceive of this piece? Because I find this very exciting.
I started making the base, and honestly, before I make this, I hated wire so much. I really do not like. I have like a 6-foot wire piece that I currently I think is finished, but I did not like wire before this, so I didn't know how the wire would operate or how it would bend, or so as I was making it, I saw this form kind of start to come, and I would just continue the contour. I really love the material, what's it called? Steel, I'm sorry. Yeah, baling wire. I really let the baling wire do the talking of this. So I just let it conform to its own space, and yeah, it came out figurative. So I think that's kind of just my touch on doing like abstract things like this. It still comes out figurative.
Yeah, it gets me interested in something like I bring up periodically, which is like the language of figure versus the language of the body, and like where for you does, I don't know, do those sound like different things to you, a figure or a work that deals with a figure or represents a figure versus something that's just in the body?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. I do know that a lot of my work in the military was reading the body, reading people. So I think my fascination towards the body is that, but once you transform the body into something other than the body that still resembles body, I'm not sure how I consider it. It is a huge part of language for me. I'm going deaf as well, so I read lips. So that's another thing. Like, so thanks military. So I think just seeing is like seeing body frames and body form in general is a huge way I communicate.
So just to tag along to what you see, this is a nice ambiguity between it being a disfigured body and body that has a kind of resilience to it. But I'm guessing that you weren't conscious or aware of that if you were making this, or were you?
I was conscious that it would be some form of body. Like I intentionally tried to put like legs on it. I intentionally tried to add like the curvature of a head or a specific area. But the second part that you said, where it's like the hardness of it, I forget, what's the second thing you had said?
So there's an ambiguity between it being a disfigured body and a body that's like resilient, like stand on its own, that's kind of like strong and stable.
So that was unintentional. Like that it's strong and stable, and because I had no idea what would happen once I finished this.
I
So
mean, even the way it's sort of standing, it's kind of looks a bit precarious.
yes.
But that's, yeah.
Have you presented a similar piece like this in front of those soldiers' families?
No, it is actually really hard to reach out to these soldiers' families because they have a lot of wounds from this, and it only recently was open with Vanessa Gang. I tried to reach out to them, but I have not presented it. I've had some veterans come up and discuss things with me, but I have not had the opportunity to speak with their families, and maybe I'll redo it, and if it's a better rendition, I'll publish it.
Not in a sense
send
of
it to them.
re-traumatizing them to remember the experience, but I was wondering if you're also considering some healing components of your presentation for those families, if you continue with some sort of ritualistic aspect in your work.
I absolutely will reach out to them once I get a nice, super clean version of it, and I can wrap it with a, no, I'm not going to say that. Yes, I will present it to them once I can make it look really professional. Because I want to do it justice. Like I want it to be
For design for particular audience.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, we're almost at 1. So is there one last question? Okay. Thank you again, everybody who came. Thank you for